I've known something about myself from the time I was a child. I remember being a young 12-year-old first trying to contemplate the world I was in. The first thing I understood was that most adults around me were pretty miserable. Unlike most kids, I didn't really want to grow up. Looking at the tensed up and serious faces of people around me, being an adult seemed to be a pretty tedious experience. It was only later that I realized something else. The people around me were miserable because they were average in nearly every way. Average in the money they made, average in their mindset, average bodies, average diets, and average habits. Their mediocrity had stolen the spark from their eyes, and all their lives consisted of was working, paying the bills, and perhaps indulging in cheap entertainment to unwind. And then I hit my teens and later college, and something else was added to this mix of averageness. I realized most young men around me were hooked on adult content and masturbation and felt myself falling into the same vicious cycle. It vividly occurred to me how guilty and miserable I felt during my early adult years as I was hooked on this habit. It emptied me from the inside and left me as hollow as the adults around me whom I never wanted to be. That was the turning point where I took stock of where I was going wrong and turned my life around. I used the internet as my greatest resource for guidance in a world where I couldn't really ask anyone directly about what I was experiencing. I decided to forego not just PMO and seed depletion, but also the new relationships that others my age were getting into and out of. I was one of the lucky ones who understood the dead end I was walking in and decided to turn back in time. I looked at the people around me and decided to do the opposite of what they did. I let go of chasing girls and put off all relationships until I had made something of myself. From the time I was 23 to around the age of 29, I kept my head down in contemplation and struggle. For 2 of those years, I abstained from women and used that energy and motivation to power me to success. I worked jobs, started building online businesses, and focused on myself, learning invaluable lessons along the way. Those 2 years I recall as the years I left everyone else in the rearview mirror. Most guys my age were too preoccupied with trivial young adult BS, while I was powering ahead in life with all my might. In other words, by the time I was in my late 20s, I was able to look up and realized I became exactly what I wanted to be, far from average. In those formative years of my life, my body was going through one of its most crucial stages of development. I was growing into a man, a masculine man, and I thank myself for not damaging my body as it did. From testosterone levels to my hormonal balance, I was able to manifest the characteristics of a masculine man and was able to make a smooth transition into manhood. Everything from thicker hair to a deep-voiced and fuller beard, I was manifesting signs of a high testosterone man. This was also reflected in how I felt inside. With greater motivation and the ability to lead, doors of opportunity opened for me wherever I went. I had gotten the head start in life I had wanted. In dating and relationships, you can argue I was less experienced than some other young men my age when I was in my early mid-20s. I had consciously decided to retain my seed and not spill it wastefully. I had foregone chasing fleeting and emotion-based relationships that happened as fast as they ended. I was no longer driven by my desire for women, instead was focused inward on making myself a high-value man that naturally commands attention. And that is exactly what happened. While 99% of young men around me were chasing around the girls they like and doing all kinds of cheesy things young men do to impress girls, I was the 1% who was truly attractive to them. I didn't dole out free attention and validation, and came across as someone on his grind who isn't desperate for a relationship to complete him. This paradoxically made many girls develop crushes on me and vie for my attention. It was a combination of my mindset and the physical manifestations of retaining my seed. I was confident inside and displayed a masculine presence on the outside. I started to stand out as exceptional in a sea of ordinary and average men. And that is exactly what I communicated with my body language, confidence, clear skin, and deep voice. None of that would have been possible if I had not differentiated my habits from the rest of the young men around me. That's also the time I got into the best shape I had ever been in my life, and certainly better than the swath of beta males around me with diminished discipline to go to the gym and lower testosterone as a result of depletion. They say great physiques only need to be built once in your life, and that's absolutely true. The older you are, the harder it is to put on muscle and truly get the definition you want. But lucky for me, I had risen above the average even in this regard, starting my workout regimen at the age of 18 and actually having the drive and discipline to carry through. Even if I fell off for some points over the years, I was still able to maintain a much better physique than all my friends and peers. All of this is down to one fundamental discipline, and that is foregoing impulsive sexual pleasure and chasing women for relationships. Those 2 years of celibacy helped me transcend myself to build a tall edifice of a man above. I had realized early on that in order to be better than average, I had to stop doing things that average people did. At the time, it was a bet because I was still a young man and naive. But it's a bet that paid off, and don't think it was easy. For a young man in his prime physical years to limit himself from one of the strongest male desires in existence, it was a time of enacting grueling self-restraint and always keeping my eyes on my goal. And I'm grateful for the internet and online resources to have been my guiding hand whenever I was disoriented and demotivated. This is why this channel exists. It aims to be the modern equivalent for you of the content that helped me when I was younger. So like the video and hit the subscribe button for more. The knowledge and wisdom you find here will be worth years of my lived experience. Until next time.